My parents demanded I should do 50% of all chores, but they didn't expect that to backfire on them. I was 15 when my parents sat me down for the big chore talk. They'd been arguing for weeks about me not helping enough around the house. Mom had this whole list printed out. Dishes, laundry, vacuuming, trash, yard work, cleaning bathrooms, the list went on forever. Dad crossed his arms and said the new rule was simple. I had to do exactly 50% of everything. No exceptions, no excuses. If they cooked dinner, I did dishes. If mom did laundry, I folded half. If dad mowed the lawn, I had to edge and trim. They said it was about teaching me responsibility, about being part of a family, about not being lazy. I said okay. They looked surprised I didn't argue. What they didn't know was I'd been paying attention for years. I knew exactly what 50% actually meant. The next morning, mom made breakfast like always. Eggs and toast for her and dad. I sat at the table with a bowl of cereal. She asked why I wasn't eating her food. I said I was eating my breakfast. I made it myself. That's my 50%. She looked confused but didn't push it. That afternoon, dad asked me to help him move the couch so he could vacuum behind it. I said sure, but only if we were splitting the whole job. He said we were, so I grabbed one end of the couch, we moved it, and then I walked away. He called after me asking where I was going. I said I did my half, moving the couch. The vacuuming was his half. He stood there holding the vacuum looking frustrated. Dinner that night, mom made spaghetti. She served dad and herself. I made a sandwich. She asked what I was doing. I said I was making my own dinner, my 50%. She could make hers and dad's. That's when they started to realize what was happening. Over the next week, I did exactly 50% of everything, and I kept a list. Mom did 3 loads of laundry. I did 3 loads, but only my clothes. She could do hers and dad's. Dad mowed the front yard. I mowed the backyard. Perfect 50%. They cleaned their bathroom. I cleaned mine. Mom vacuumed the living room. I vacuumed my bedroom. Dad took out the kitchen trash. I took out my bedroom trash. The house started falling apart in weird ways. Dishes piled up because nobody wanted to do more than their half. The laundry room was full of separate piles. 2 weeks in, Dad tried to change the rules. He said I was being difficult, that I knew what they meant. I pulled out my list, showed him every chore divided perfectly down the middle, asked him which part wasn't fair. He couldn't answer because technically I was doing exactly what they asked. Mom tried a different approach. She said families work together, help each other out. I agreed, said I was happy to help more, but then it wouldn't be 50% anymore, would it? They needed to decide what they actually wanted. That night, I heard them arguing in their bedroom. Something about how this was backfiring. The next day, Dad's truck broke down. He called me asking if I could give him a ride to work. I said sure, but gas is expensive, so he'd need to pay for half the gas there and half the gas back. He just stared at me. Mom's laptop crashed that weekend. She asked if I could fix it since I'm good with computers. I said absolutely. My half would be diagnosing the problem. If she wanted me to actually fix it, that would be more than 50% of the work. She fixed it herself. Took her 4 hours. 3 weeks into the 50% rule, they called another family meeting. Dad said they'd made a mistake, that they should have been more specific about expectations. Mom said maybe the chore system needed to be more flexible. I sat there waiting, didn't say anything. Finally, Dad asked what it would take for me to go back to just helping out normally. I said I wanted it in writing, that chores weren't going to be this weapon they used whenever they were mad at me, that sometimes I'd do more than my share, sometimes less. But it would balance out because that's how families actually work. Mom agreed immediately. We wrote up a new system, way simpler. I had certain chores that were always mine, they had theirs, and we'd help each other when needed without counting every single thing. It's been 6 months now. The house runs smoother than it ever did. I still do dishes most nights, still help with yard work, still clean my bathroom, but now when Dad needs help moving furniture, I don't calculate percentages, and when Mom's running late, I'll start dinner without being asked. Last week, Dad told me he was actually impressed. Said most kids would have just fought back by refusing to do anything, but I fought back by doing exactly what they asked, just not the way they expected. Mom laughed and said I was probably going to be a lawyer someday. I'm thinking about it. Turns out I'm pretty good at reading the fine print.